I still remember the day my sister called me crying. Not the kind of crying where someone is simply upset. This was different. Her voice was shaking, broken, like someone had taken away her sense of safety. "Please come," she whispered. I grabbed my keys and drove straight to her house. My sister, Emily, had always been the gentle one in our family. She saw the good in everyone, even when people didn't deserve it. When she married Daniel 3 years earlier, she believed she had found a loving family. At first, everything seemed perfect. Daniel was kind, responsible, supportive, but his parents and older sister were another story. They always had something to say. The curtains Emily picked were wrong. The meals she cooked weren't good enough. The way she dressed was too simple. The way she managed the house was not how their family did things. For years, Emily tried to keep the peace. She smiled. She apologized. She stayed quiet. And every time she stayed quiet, they pushed a little harder. I hated watching it happen. Whenever I visited, I noticed the little comments. His mother would say things like, "A real wife would know how to keep a home properly." His sister would laugh and add, "Some women just aren't naturally talented." Emily would pretend not to hear, but I saw the pain in her eyes. I told her many times, "You don't have to accept this." She would always answer the same way. "I just want everyone to get along." That was Emily, always sacrificing herself for peace. But what I didn't know that day was that things had gotten much worse. When I arrived at her house, she opened the door with red eyes and trembling hands. I immediately knew something serious had happened. We sat in the kitchen. For several moments, she couldn't even speak. Then she handed me a stack of papers. "What is this?" I asked. She looked away. "My savings account." I stared at her. "What about it?" Her voice cracked. "It's empty." For a moment, I thought I had misunderstood. Emily had spent years building that savings account. Years. It was supposed to be her security, her future, her protection. "How?" I asked. She swallowed hard. "Daniel's family convinced him to borrow from it." I felt my stomach drop. Borrow. That word rarely meant what people claimed it meant. "Did you agree?" Tears rolled down her cheeks. "No." That's when I realized something terrible. Someone had crossed a line they never should have crossed. And before this story was over, the truth would change everything. Over the next few days, Emily told me everything. Daniel's father had claimed he needed temporary financial help for a business problem. His mother insisted family should support family. His sister pressured Daniel constantly. "It's only money," they told him. "We'll return it soon." Daniel believed them. Or maybe he wanted to believe them. Without fully discussing it with Emily, he allowed access to funds that belonged to both of them. Nearly every dollar was gone. Months passed. No repayment came. Instead, his family started acting even more entitled. Whenever Emily asked about the money, they treated her like the villain. His mother rolled her eyes. "Why are you so obsessed with money?" His sister laughed. "You should care more about family." Family. That word became their shield. They used it every time they wanted something, every time they crossed another boundary, every time they avoided responsibility. Meanwhile, Emily was struggling. She stopped sleeping well. She worried constantly. The trust she once had in her marriage began to disappear. The hardest part wasn't losing the money. It was realizing that the people around her felt no guilt. One evening, I sat with her at a small cafe. She looked exhausted. "I don't even recognize my life anymore," she said. That sentence stayed with me, because for the first time, I saw something changing inside her. The woman who always stayed silent was reaching her limit. And honestly, I was glad. Not because she was hurting, but because she finally understood she deserved better. Over the next few weeks, Emily began collecting records, bank statements, messages, emails, promises they had made, every excuse, every contradiction, every lie. At first she was terrified, but slowly something beautiful happened. Her fear started turning into strength. The more evidence she gathered, the clearer everything became. The money hadn't gone toward a business emergency. Large portions had funded vacations, luxury purchases, personal expenses, things they had hidden from everyone. When Emily discovered that, something inside her finally broke. Or maybe it finally healed, because she stopped trying to protect people who never protected her. Then another surprise arrived. Daniel discovered the truth himself. He found documents Emily had collected. At first, he refused to believe it. Then he checked the records. Again and again, the reality became impossible to deny. The people he trusted had deceived him. And worse, they had used him to do it. I remember the night he called me. His voice sounded defeated. "I failed her," he said. For once, there were no excuses. No blaming. No denial. Just truth. And truth can be painful, but sometimes it's the first step toward justice. What none of us knew was that the biggest confrontation was still ahead. And when it came, no one would leave unchanged. A month later, Daniel's family organized a large family gathering. On the surface, it looked like a normal celebration. But Emily had a different plan. For years, she had stayed quiet. For years, she had protected everyone's comfort except her own. Not this time. As relatives filled the room, conversations flowed and laughter echoed through the house. Then Emily stood up. The room slowly fell silent. I sat beside her, my heart racing. She wasn't shaking anymore. She wasn't afraid. She looked stronger than I had ever seen her. "I want to talk about family," she said calmly. The room grew still. Daniel's mother smiled confidently. She had no idea what was coming. Emily began showing records. Documents, statements, messages, every promise, every lie, one by one. The room's atmosphere changed instantly. Faces that had been smiling moments earlier became shocked, confused, uncomfortable. The truth was impossible to ignore. When relatives realized where the money had actually gone, the questions started immediately. His father couldn't explain the missing funds. His sister couldn't explain the luxury purchases. His mother couldn't explain the months of manipulation. For the first time, nobody was listening to their excuses. The people they had fooled for years were finally seeing reality. Daniel stood beside Emily, and that mattered more than anything. Because this wasn't just about money anymore. It was about accountability. It was about respect. It was about truth. Over the following months, relationships changed dramatically. Several relatives distanced themselves from those who had caused the damage. Repayment arrangements were made, not because they suddenly became honest, but because they could no longer hide. As for Emily, something remarkable happened. She smiled again, not the forced smile she used to wear. A real one, the kind that comes from freedom, the kind that comes from finally choosing yourself. One evening, we sat together watching the sunset. The same sister who had once cried in my kitchen now looked peaceful. "Do you regret exposing them?" I asked. She thought for a moment. Then she smiled. "No," she said softly. "Truth isn't revenge, it's freedom." And I realized she was right. Sometimes the greatest victory isn't destroying the people who hurt you. Sometimes it's refusing to let their actions destroy you. Because when people cross the line and take advantage of your kindness, they may think they'll never face consequences. But eventually, truth has a way of finding its voice. And when it does, everything changes. That was the day my sister's in-laws finally faced the truth. And it was the day my sister got her life back.